This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
I've never done this here. I've done or have been part of, I didn't facilitate, been part of guided meditations. Today we're going to change it up and experience a guided visual meditation. Very excited because we've already done some interesting tactics and assignments with her in the past, and they've been very impactful, very interesting, very insightful. She is an art therapist, and I think we're going to get some clarity on a bunch of different things from our professional of the year. She is Barbara Robertson. She's back with us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you?
Wondering how this is going to go.
Okay.
Not at all worried, but I was like, guided meditations. You say the word meditation, and I'm first of the line. I don't officially say that I'm going to meditate, but I took some time earlier today and just closed my eyes and just got into a zone. And I have to make a decision this weekend as to what to do in terms of plans, and talking with a friend about that. And and it has nothing to do with her. She's just part of one of these plans. And I actually said, yeah, you know what? I'm going to meditate on that. And that's how I'm going to come up with my decision of which direction to go to. Minor, but you know what? Why not?
That's right. That's right. I mean, we all have this sort of inner compass that steers us in a direction that suits us because it's inside of us. It sort of has it has all the data on who we really are, our authentic self. And so when we get these little hints from our intuition, I find them to be pretty trustworthy because they've already kind of got a handle on what's inside that we might not necessarily be consciously aware of, but we still may be acting on it because the subconscious mind has a lot of impact on our decisions and our actions.
I like what you said there, the data. Because I picture, the subconscious mind, it's sitting there, it's always working, or at least 90%, whether you're sleeping or not.
Right.
And it's sitting there and it's keeping the score. And let's say, you need to make a decision. And, it's almost like it's, the gatekeeper sitting there with its arms folded and thinking, all right, what do you got? Hold on, I'll be back in just a moment. And goes through all the files that's within your brain. It's like, oh, well, we have this over here. There's evidence why you probably want to pivot over to choice A, and here's B. It's pretty fascinating how that actually works.
Yeah, and it's funny because my husband and I like to watch police procedurals, and lately we've been watching kind of cold case subject on the fictional TV shows, but they always have these great archives, with the steel shelves and the cardboard cartons full of evidence from whatever case is.
Yes.
Pull it out. And then there's not just papers in there, there's objects, pieces of evidence that were collected, notes, photographs. And I kind of think the subconscious is like that. They've got, they might be pulling 4 or 5 boxes out, saying, no, I think there's some connection here between all these things.
Have you ever seen an attorney walk into court and they are loaded with paper, and it's still old school, a lot of them, it's all on paper. So some attorneys actually have a push cart where or it's just underneath an arm or two, massive amounts of data, essentially.
Right. And it's astonishing. How do they know where to look when something is coming up in the spontaneous, interaction in the courtroom? But they seem to be able to know right where to dive into the pile.
Well, I guess that's because good attorney is so familiar with the case that they can go, oh, that was 2 years ago. We have it right here. Excuse me, Your Honor, let me grab that. But I just got a thought that isn't everything your subconscious is processing, and I'm going to have to process that consciously, but isn't it all decisions?
I don't know that it's all decisions. Well, I don't know that it's not either.
And that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at, right? And that came from the attorney walking into court, because ultimately there will be a using the data and
Right.
testimony, et cetera, decision. So I'm just wondering, like your subconscious um, is piloting you.
I think you're right, because in order to make an action, you have to have some part of you decide to act.
Right.
And it can flow pretty spontaneously as the outside conscious part of you might experience it. But I do think there's a lot of data input before we're conscious that the data is going into the chute to kind of give us a sense of weight in this direction or that direction.
And I'm just thinking out loud here. There's no, I
Yeah.
don't know if there's a right or wrong answer, but I'm just like pondering, could your subconscious render information that's not a decision? Because it seems like it's always this or that. I'm trying to think, where your subconscious could give you, all the different things that it's throwing your way. Um,
Well, I do think we have kind of a core self that is like the undefended part of ourselves.
hmm,
And it's kind of the essence of us. I was talking with you a couple of minutes before we started about how an apple has seeds in it and how each one of those seeds has a whole blueprint for another apple tree packed into that little tiny kind of hard-shelled seed.
hmm,
And that when it gets dropped into the ground under the right conditions with enough nutrition in the soil, enough water to make the nutrition accessible, the seed somehow or other knows to send the shoot down, the roots down, I mean. And if there's enough sunlight from above, maybe warming the soil, that somehow tells the cells, okay, it's time to send us a shoot, a stem up into the air.
hmm.
And if conditions are right for it to last, it grows into a whole new tree with a strong trunk and roots that attach firmly to the ground and branches that reach out so that the leaves have a chance to get enough sunlight. And eventually it produces flowers. And if they get pollinated, the flowers become apples. And it's pretty weird to think that that happens in such a tiny little bit. So I don't know how much the subconscious might just be there for that sort of kind of, let's do this next. We need
Hmm.
roots or we need sunlight. I'm not sure. But what
But
I'd like to invite us to do today is to kind of go into our imagination and give it a little bit of a chance to play because often I think as adults in this world especially we may not really be invited to use our imagination to create vividly something just for the purpose of suiting ourselves.
I'm on board.
Okay, so speaking of trees, what I'd like to do is to invite you and our listeners to do what I call going inside. So the first part of that is that you kind of get grounded by just taking in what your senses can notice about where you are right now. So kind of notice your feet on the floor, notice how that connects you to planet Earth, whether it's through several stories of building or whether you're outside with your feet in the grass. Feel the support of the chair beneath or behind you, supporting your weight, or whatever is in your environment. Maybe
Hmm.
sounds you can hear if you're outdoors, bird song or a breeze rustling through the leaves. Inside, maybe a fan or an air conditioner going, or people walking by in the hall, whatever you notice, just kind of notice. And that's going to pull you into the present and allow you to kind of let go of anything that's not relevant to being here now.
Hmm.
And next, I want to invite you to gently close your eyes if you're comfortable with that. You can just keep them open and kind of stare down or at a spot out in the middle distance if that's more comfortable for you. And then imagine that you're bringing your attention to your interior. And I don't exactly mean an interior where lungs and heart and digestive system and all that sort of pack up all the space in the torso, but imagine that it was an open kind of three-dimensional space. And maybe, because we're kind of thinking about trees here, a place where you might think a tree would really be comfortable and supported by whatever was in the environment. So that may be that there's a clearing in a place that's already woods, or it may be that there's a line of stately trees along a drive, or trees on a mountainside with their roots just digging into the rock so they can take this sort of mountain goat daring sort of position on the rocky side of the mountain and reach out into the cool air. And as you sense more of that environment around you, now I want you to imagine that you were once like an apple seed, the seed to some kind of tree, and you got planted in this environment in the most ideal spot for you. And you took root, as seeds tend to do first, because it's not much good if the stem comes up, but there's no roots holding it, because that stem's not going to stay upright for long. So notice how it feels right from the start to have had a good grip on the ground that's going to support you as you get taller and bigger and stronger. And now you have an image of a kind of tree that you've always known was attractive to you, or just a feeling about a tree that you've seen, a different kind of tree. Maybe it's a tree that you're very comfortable and familiar with, or maybe it's a tree you've only seen when you've gone on some trip to a very different kind of place. And the tree was kind of awesome to see because it was so different from what you're used to being around. But whatever spoke to you, allow yourself to become that kind of tree in this environment. And you may want to kind of imagine the process you've gone through of growing from a little seed with roots kind of just beginning to dig into the earth and a sprout that just looks like the stem of something very tiny, not threatening to be a tree by any means, if you didn't know already that that was the kind of plant it was. And going through this transformation over all the years that you've been living into a mature tree. And now imagine the way that you'd be standing. If you're an evergreen tree, maybe the highest point of you is like a peak. And all your branches are spreading out with a downward direction so that when snow and ice fall, they don't break your branches. It just slides off gently down the slope of your branches all around you. Or if you're a deciduous tree, imagine whether your branches are twisty and gnarly and look sort of like a Halloween ghost town kind of a tree, a haunted tree, or a tree that you might find in Louis XVI's garden in Versailles, a tree that is like trimmed, like a box, or those trees that we see sometimes that gardeners have sculpted into creatures. They've grown the branches so thick together that they can actually become an image of an elephant or a bird. Any kind of tree that feels good to you, and notice in your body, what does it feel like to stand that way? Are you reaching up tall? Or are you like one of the trees I remember seeing on the West Coast where the wind was predominantly off the ocean and these yew trees were growing at the top of a little rise on the beach and they were all bent in the direction that the wind was blowing. And yet they were still complete, entire trees. They just flexed where they needed to flex. They adjusted to the forces in the environment and kept on being trees. Would that be the tree that you are? Would that be something that you might celebrate about yourself? Or would you celebrate the colors that you turn in the fall? Or would you celebrate if you're an evergreen tree that you don't have to leave your greens on the ground? You get to wear them all year round. Or the beautiful scent that many evergreen trees put into the environment so that you know if you're in a forest and you're walking and there's mostly not evergreen trees and you're coming close to one, you can smell the scent in the air, and it's so intoxicating sometimes. And now I want to invite you to imagine what other life might you, in your tree form, be happy to support. Lots of different ways that trees can support other kinds of lives. In the winter, I'm thinking, in winter branches, you see those big bunches of leaves that actually are squirrel nests or birds' nests that are more carefully tucked away out of sight, or the hollows in the trunk that make a home for small animals, or what might live in and around the roots. Seems like they're little cubbies underneath and around a really elaborate root system that trees can put down sometimes. What pleases you about whatever life is there with you? And what annoys you?
Very interesting. Like I see the visuals. I already knew what the tree was,
Okay.
but as you spoke more, I found more reason to validate the reason why I picked that tree. Hmm.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
shall I share my tree?
Yeah, before you do that, though, I want to invite any listeners who've been with us to kind of just take a note of what they've created and a moment to just feel what was felt in being the tree and see if you can identify one or two things about the experience that sort of resonated with who you know yourself to be. And it's okay if you didn't feel anything in particular like that. Sometimes we do, and sometimes we don't, and that's both okay. These are just possibilities that I'm mentioning, not mandates, not if you can't do this, it's not going to work, because
Hmm.
whatever you did worked exactly as it was meant to work for you. So I want to invite everyone who tried a little something to celebrate whatever it was that they experienced, because whatever it was is valid for the person that you are. And when we embrace ourselves in that way, we turn our inner critics into inner advocates instead. And that feels a heck of a lot better.
It, it's just amazing when you start thinking about this, how the layers come out.
Tell me about your
Eh,
layers. Yeah, what did you experience? What would you like to share with us?
So for me, hands down, palm tree. I love warm Caribbean, tropical, all of that. Always have. But then I started thinking, well, why? Why the palm tree? What's going on there? And as you spoke, I started hearing more and more in my mind that the palm tree is resilient. It can withstand hurricanes. A lot of, the oak tree,
Yes,
hurricane,
yes.
knock it over. Not to say that palm trees don't get knocked over, but they're pretty strong.
Dude, that's right.
Um, they're very clean looking, and that's important to me.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Where, and even when they grow, they don't, this is just me, okay? I don't like a lot of shade. Like I could be, driving down a street and there's a bunch of trees covering, the road and it's kind of
Yeah.
dark and it's like, no, 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 no. That is not me. I'm good with two trees on a property and that's it. So the
Yeah.
palm tree is kind of like that, where it's streamlined, it's clean. There's not a lot of mess with it. You have, oak, maple, whatever it might be. Leaves fall, seasons change. I'm not a big fan of seasons changing. I could be 85 degrees every day and I'm good. That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
fantastic with that.
Yeah.
Just me personally. Um, and then I was like, was supporting something else, and I was like, oh, there's coconuts on that tree. So
Yeah.
that supports
Yeah.
others. And of course, you get an occasional bird living in the palm tree, but just because the way they're constructed, probably not. And then even with the fronds at the top of the palm tree, it's just very elegant, and the way it sways in the wind is just so beautiful, I believe, as opposed to nothing wrong with the maple or the oak or whatever tree. Just doesn't have the same majestic vibe to it.
Yeah, that's right. It won't dance like a palm tree will.
Yeah. And when you said, even before you said it, I believe it was on the West Coast, and there were trees that were conforming to the wind, even before you said it, I was thinking of in Aruba, they have the DVDV tree, and they like almost a 45-degree angle to
Oh,
the wind.
yes.
It's a thing because it's always windy there, and they're always
Yes.
pointing in a certain direction.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that that's not a palm tree, but it's in a tropical climate, so it kind of reminded me of that. So when you
Yeah.
said that, I was like, I was thinking it when you said it. But that's
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the that as I think more of the palm tree is me. What I like, just maybe metaphorically, I like things simple and clean.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but also aesthetically as well. So just interesting how it can, when you pick a tree, it could be you if you start thinking about it.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. And how did you experience color? Were you able to kind of have a sense of color in the environment around you? Because sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. Just curious what your experience was.
I wasn't so intentional about that. I was focusing more on the tree
Hmm.
and the palm tree. Not a lot of color going on there. Certainly the environment around it. You could have a teal ocean, you could have a blue sky, you could have some clouds in the sky. You could have, if it's in a tropical environment, they a lot of times paint the houses very bright colors or
Right.
pastels,
Yeah.
which all of that kind of look is
It is
definitely,
charming, isn't it?
oh, I love
Yeah.
it. Oh, I
In
love it.
fact, just looking at the colors behind you, the way the light is with your orange wall, and then there's some violet even on the computer screen on the monitor. And behind you, there's a little green and a little lavender and a little more of a rosy magenta color. And then that bright blue and red of clothes that the young man is wearing in the
That
photo.
that's actually Bruno Mars. He
Is
signed
it
that.
really
Like all of them are.
awesome? That is very
That's
cool. Okay.
this thing over there, and
Okay, so Bruno Mars is wearing really cool colors.
yes, and
Out.
I never even realized that the color pants he's wearing almost looks like the color of my wall. I never even thought that.
Yeah, yeah, it just makes a nice kind of,
Wasn't planned,
no, but I mean, that's,
and he's wearing orange pants. I never even realized that, and that's an orange wall.
yeah. I mean,
Wow.
and it's kind of fun, just, I mean, this tends to be the things that my eyes notice is the pattern of anything that I'm looking at. So you've got a black shirt on and the headphones and the speaker, and then there's some wires and gizmos holding the mic up. and the monitor, and then there's some parts of black frames. Some of them are square and some of them are at an angle. So there's some diagonals going on there. Then we
Hmm.
got some straight lines, we got some curves, and it's all, and then there's this vase behind you that has some orange, like, I know, I mean, lavender kind of sprays, but there's some dark green there
Hmm.
too. And it's connecting with the shadows on the wall behind it that kind of look almost like palm
Almost
fronds.
like palm trees. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have to tell you that this is all maybe subconsciously intentional, but like the colors and even as you're saying it, I'm looking at the screen and there's contrast. So you have the darks, you have the mid-tones, you have the lighter tones here and there. Um, we're out of time. I can keep going here. It's you allow us or prime our minds to think visually.
Well, that to me is something that I believe most of us are more fluent than we know, because that's the tool that we have that we can make the most use of from the very start of life on Earth as a human.
Yeah, like super cool. Like it's and I guess it's intentional, but it's unintentional. Like, I just like, I got to fill this corner. I'll throw a plant there. Could have been a picture or
Yeah,
something. This over here, that over there. And by the way, this area was not intended for video. This was the radio studio. I was like, well, we can shoot stuff here too. It wasn't even set up for this. It's just, but I guess I'm wired that way in terms of, things got to be placed. And
that's right. And that's, I mean, what kind of what I'm feeling from what I see is this harmony in the elements that are there. And I think that's because you have a heart that speaks up about what you like
or what I
and
think should be.
or what you
Because
think could be,
because
right?
I wouldn't be
What
putting
resonates with
oh,
you, what vibrates with you.
like the palm tree is very clean. If I'm going to put pictures on the wall, there needs to be some symmetry to them. I'm not just going to throw them up there. There's a reason,
Yes.
right
You have a sense of balance, right?
right down to the post-it notes. It's certain colors, so it
Oh
catches
yeah,
catches my attention
there you go.
to take action. This is just a piece of what you do, and we're going more visual today. Thank you for the meditation. I love it. But it's also connecting with oneself and realizing why we do what we do and how it is so much connected to art. We don't realize it, but it is. We're doing it, on a daily basis.
And
Um,
that's why, I really connected artwork with heart work, because I think
yeah,
both of those give the other one a clue about how to be in this world.
very cool.
And I think that that's just one of the beautiful things of life. One of the things certainly that gives me joy.
Robertson Art Therapy, and is it
LLC.
LLC.com?
Thank
And
you. Yes.
best way
Yep.
to reach
And
you?
that's a good way to reach me. Yep. Or brobertson.atr@gmail.com.
Always wonderful talking with you. And this is therapy. It's fun therapy though, but it's therapy once you realize what's going on within you and how you express it. And that notion everybody says, I'm not creative. Everybody's creative.
Everybody's creative. That's right. We couldn't get through one single day without using the creativity that we've been gifted with. We just don't know to call it that.
Exactly. And right down to the seed analogy, there's creation right there.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Um,
All
thank,
right. See you next week.
thank you for today. Enjoy the weekend. Okay.
Thanks. You too.
Appreciate it. We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.